this is part 2, so enjoy. The next book is After the Fire by Will Hill. Now, this is a book I've read very recently, but it's come to be one of my favorites. I only read this a couple days ago, actually. I finished at the beginning of September. But this book is about a church cult, is what I'm going to call it. Now, this is not supposed to offend anyone who has religion or goes to church or anything like that. That's just how it's written. And it's all fake. It's just a story. Just clearing that up. But basically, the story follows Moonbeam. Can't talk. And Moonbeam has been with this church all her life. She's been inside these walls basically all her life. Yes, it was different because there were 2 different pastors. Father Patrick, he let them go outside and he let them go and preach to other people and all that. But when Father John took over, that's when things started to go badly. And Father John convinced everyone inside the church that the outsiders, the government, they're going to try and kill us. They're going to try and take us away. They are the outsiders. We cannot have any interaction with them because they will kill us. They want to hurt us. They want to kill us. And all that nonsense. So everyone starts preparing for this final battle. And obviously there's a fire. And it's so crazy. It is kind of a big book, but honestly I flew through it. I just flew through it. I loved this book. Because there were so many great aspects of it, and I never thought I liked this book. Like, this is what was kind of, I went out on a whim, and I kind of just picked it up. I was like, okay, sure, I'll give it a shot. Don't know if I'll really like it, but I turned out to love it. So it's definitely worth the read if you ever get the chance. But the whole story is followed in Moonbeam's perspective. So that is basically that. But it's a super good book. I'm terrible at explaining things. We all know this. If you watched any of my videos, I am terrible at explaining things. But this is a very, very good book. I highly recommend you give it a read. Okay, the next book I have is Breathing Room by Marcia Hales. I've read this at least 3 times. And I've never talked about it before on my channel, but now is definitely the time to talk about it. Okay, so this book follows a girl named Evie Hoffmeister, and she's 13 years old, and she has tuberculosis. So her father takes her to Loon Lake, which is a hospital for treating tuberculosis. This is set in the 1940s, just so you know. But basically, it follows from Evie's arrival through the stay at the hospital, through her friends going and leaving, through all the nurses. And basically, Evie is placed in a room with Sarah, Pearl, and Dina. Those are her roommates, and those are kind of the girls that the book is also based on. And all the girls are going towards fighting tuberculosis and getting out of the hospital and just resuming a normal life, because these girls all have dreams, they all got stuff they want to do. They're very young. The girls in Evie's room are teenagers, so they're all very young. They've all got dreams, they've all got stuff they want to do, but the tuberculosis is obviously killing that mood. So this is a fight through tuberculosis, and I thought this was very, very well written. And that could just be me, but I loved this book. I've read it, like I said, at least 3 times now, because it's so good. And I probably will talk about this more. But it's just, I don't know, I picked it up on a whim at the library when I was like 13, actually. And I fell in love with it. From the first time I read it, I was like, whoa, this is a good book. So I highly, highly recommend you pick this book up, because it's such an amazing book, and I loved it. Okay, the next book is Everything, Everything by Nicola Yoon. And this book has been out for a while, but I fell in love with it the first time I read it. And I know a lot of people didn't, or at least a couple people didn't really like this book or didn't care for it, but I loved it. I've seen the movie, I've read the book, and I loved both of them. So, for those of you who don't know, this book follows a girl named Maddie who is told she's very sick, so she can't go outside because her sickness will kill her if she leaves her house. And this is basically a story about how her nurse Carla and her mother and all of them have to sanitize everything, keep everything clean, keep her safe. But then one day, a boy named Ollie shows up, and that's when everything changes. Ollie moves in next door to her, and her and Ollie start to slowly become friends, and of course that friendship turns into a huge relationship, or at least partially relationship, as much of a relationship as you can get. But since no one's allowed really near Maddie, they have a hard time communicating, but they do it through text and through their windows. It's like Taylor Swift. You ever seen the Taylor Swift You Belong to Me? That's what it's like. But Maddie is starting to fall in love with Ollie, and so they gotta go on this crazy adventure to Hawaii, and they have a time of their lives, and of course, dun dun dun, it always goes wrong. It always gets messed up. So then they have to come back to Maddie's hometown. She has to go to the hospital, and her mother's mad, and that's just, all of it turns into a huge chaotic mess. But I really, really, really enjoyed this story. I've read this, I think, twice now, maybe 3 times. But it's just, I love it because it's got really cute pictures and really cool writing style, and I really fell in love with it. And if you get the chance, you should definitely give this a read. I highly recommend it. And here we are, the romances of all romances. At least the romance I've read. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This book. I don't even know where to start on this book, because this book just tore my heart to pieces. It tore my heart to pieces. So I know a lot of us know what this book is about, and most of us should, because it deserves the hype, it deserves the praise. This book has been out forever, and it is still the best romance book I've ever read. Now, I'm not saying it'll be your favorite, and I don't even know if it's technically a romance book, but the romance in this kills me, and I love the romance in this. But for those of you who don't know, if you've never, or just getting into the world of reading, this book is about Hazel Grace and Augustus Waters, and they both have cancer. So what happens is Hazel goes to the support group for cancer kids, and that's when she meets Augustus, and they start to talk, and they kind of start to slowly become friends. Okay, in this book, Hazel has her own favorite book, An Imperial Affliction by Peter Van Howen. So she loves this book. She's read it 100 times, and that's her basically favorite book. So Augustus scores kind of like tickets to to go meet Peter, the recluse author, as it says, in Amsterdam. So they both fly to Amsterdam to go meet this author. And he turns out to be a jerk. He turns out to be the biggest jerk in history. So Gus tries to cheer Hazel up by just taking her out, making her have a good time, and then basically just falling in love. And that's basically the whole story. I'm not going to spoil it with any more details. But God, if you have not read this book, pick it up and read it. Please, you will not regret it. It is one of the best books ever written, and I will stand by that. It took me forever to pick this book up. I'm not going to deny it. But when I did, it became one of my favorite books. And it will forever be one of my favorite books. And I'm going to read it again very soon, because I'm a sucker for this book. But please pick this book up. You will not regret it, I promise.